Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Probably the most effective pushback I've seen in a long time was on TV last night. Anybody that turned on the news saw the employee of the Russian TV station jump up with a sign and tell the Russian people that what they were hearing was a lie, and that that the whole thing was misrepresented to the Russian people. She was escorted off, and her attorney this morning said she couldn't find her, so I suspect she's probably headed for Siberia or something like that. But I tell you, there were millions and millions of people in Russia that saw that, and I suspect it's a lot of discussion this morning around the country. I want to talk about, I'd like to hear what work you are doing regarding the countries that will be next. I think most of us believe that if Putin gets away with this, Moldova will certainly be next and be quite easy. After that, of course, will come Georgia, which probably be a little bit tougher. Then after that, he has long lusted after the Baltic states. And after that, Poland and the Czech Republic, and then he's on his way to putting the USSR back together again. So what is being done to fend off the Russian aggression in these particular embattled countries? And I'd like to hear some specifics if I can.
Thank you, Ranking Member. I think you raised a critically important question to which we're very well attuned, that certainly Russia's the threat that Russia represents is not solely with respect to Ukraine, and we are absolutely shoring up our support and collaboration with allies and partners, including all the frontline states that you mentioned. I would note that the Baltic states, Moldova and Georgia were all part of our Summit for Democracy effort. All of these countries are also part of the substantial U.S. humanitarian assistance that Congress has enabled so rapidly as we contend with what I described earlier as the worst humanitarian crisis in Europe since World War II. I think in concrete terms, a case such as Lithuania, we've seen Lithuania basically embattled from all sides, from taking a principled stand with respect to opening a liaison office with Taiwan, and also certainly taking a very resolute stand against Putin's aggression. We have offered substantial support to Lithuania to stand up to Chinese economic coercion in the form of import-bank support, other supply chain enabled assistance. And Moldova would be another case where we are offering considerable democracy assistance support. I'd be happy to provide you later with some specific numbers where we have the positive development of the elections last year in a reformist government that I think is very well aligned with the goals of the summit, countering authoritarianism, elevating the fight against corruption, and advancing human rights internally and internationally.
Yeah, I'm sure glad to hear that the efforts you're making with Lithuania, they really have been brave standing up to China and Russia. And of course, they're right on the front line of Russia. Nobody knows the Russians better than they do. And I think we all need to help them move forward if we can. Moldova is going to be a heavy lift. They're a very small country, and it's going to be very difficult for them to defend if and when Putin decides to go there. I've just got a short period of time left. I and other of my colleagues, including the chairman, have been very concerned with the activities of China on the colleges and universities. And you heard the number I talked about of $500 million going in. These monies aren't put there out of the generosity of their heart by any stretch. What do you have any initiatives pushing back on that on college campuses?
Ranking Member, I'm going to ask Acting Undersecretary Hall Godfrey to respond here, given her responsibilities on the U.S. education side.
Thank you very much for the question about Chinese influence in American colleges and universities, PRC influence, I should say. In 2020, sir, I think, as you know, with congressional support, the Department of State began an earnest effort to ensure that American colleges and universities had a good understanding and visibility into the activities of the PRC on their campus, and that their hosting of Chinese nationals in American universities was consistent with exchange program directives and policies. The Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs began a considerable effort to ensure that updated guidance made it to colleges and universities who are sponsoring Confucius Institutes, the institutes that the Chinese higher educational system uses to support Chinese scholars around the world. In 2020, when that initiative began, 55 American universities were hosting Confucius Institutes. Over the course of the past 2 years, as American universities have sought to better understand the impact and activities of staff of Confucius Institutes on their campuses, today only 9 American colleges and universities continue to support Confucius Institutes. I should say, we do continue to wholeheartedly welcome legitimate exchange and scholarship, including by citizens of China. But we do very much want to make sure that the PRC, the Chinese government, is not exploiting our open educational system to more malevolent ends.
Yeah, I appreciate that on the Confucius Institutes. Those numbers coming down are a good sign that there is some recognition going on. I'm still very concerned about the flow of money with either grants or contracts with universities. My time's up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And if I can add, sir, I do think the new requirements in place for American universities to make sure that they are declaring publicly what their foreign sources of funding for have had an impact as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now,